Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Volco Auto Supply in Lawrenceburg has a legacy of being a family-owned and operated company. Since 1927, our business has grown and evolved into today's one-stop source for all your automotive supplies. But in that time, one thing has stayed the same, and that's our commitment to our customers and their needs. At Volco Auto Supply, you'll find everything for your car, truck, or even fleet of vehicles, but with good old-fashioned customer service the way it needs to be. That's Volco Auto Supply, 416 Buffalo Road in Lawrenceburg. Visit VolcoAuto.com.
Hey everyone, this is Landon Saunders.
And this is Nate Patterson with Cloud9 Fiber.
We're excited to finally be able to offer Lawrenceburg our blazing fast, reliable, and affordable fiber internet services.
If you're looking for a more reliable and more affordable provider, we at Cloud9 Fiber have you covered.
Plans start at $50 a month, and we can offer up to a gigabit to your home or business.
We are excited to be able to offer your first month of service entirely free. We encourage you to sign up on cloud9fiber.com or by calling 931-201-9098 so we can help you make the switch today.
Working with Gina was great because she really knows this area. I gave her the specifications of what I was looking for, and she took me right to my forever home.
I met Gina when she sold my son's home within 5 days after it hit the market. With my home, from the day the sign hit the yard to the day we signed the papers, Gina was there every step of the way. Her involvement in the sale of my home was the best decision that I made.
We never felt like Gina was pushing us to make a deal with a buyer. She knew what we wanted, and she worked diligently to get us the best offer for our properties.
Working hard for my clients to make their dreams come true. Let me work for you.
Welcome to the newly remodeled Brass Lantern. For over 30 years, we've been serving delicious food to excellent people. Brass Lantern takes pride in authenticity, serving fresh, homemade food to please any member of the family. From mouth-watering to one-of-a-kind steaks served with gourmet marinade, to salad with our signature honey mustard dressing, specialty fruit tea, drafts, and much more. Our food is always prepared daily. Whether you come in with friends or family, you'll appreciate that fresh is better.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to SEC Tailgate. Michael Marks, Hayden Burks. And Hayden, it's been a minute since we've been in here. We've been busy. We've been all over the place. You know, I traveled for my birthday. You and AJ have been doing the American Legion games. But we're finally back. We've got some time, and we've got a lot of news to cover because the SEC, there's never a dull day. Earlier today, Zakai Ziegler, it was confirmed that he'll be playing professional basketball this year. He will be signing with Nanterre 92. It is a professional team out of Paris in France's top basketball league. So, you know, congrats to Zakai. Had a good summer league, 13 points, seven assists a game.
Whenever he had that 11 minutes, 15 points, and 4 assists, I knew he could have had a chance in the NBA. I still think he's got a chance to eventually get there, maybe a G League team.
Yeah. I would say, you know, usually the guys that go to like the French teams, the Spanish teams, they usually fluctuate in and out of the G League, so I don't think this is the end of seeing Zakai Ziegler playing professional ball in the United States. We've seen 6 SEC teams made up the top 10 easiest non-conference schedules, those being Vanderbilt, Georgia, Tennessee, Missouri, Ole Miss, and Auburn. Only one team in the hardest non-conference schedules, that being Florida. We'll get a lot more into that later in the show. Netflix has announced Any Given Saturday, a show that will be kind of a behind-the-scenes that follows the SEC. This will be over the 2024 college football season. You know, Netflix had huge successes with shows like quarterback and wide and was it wide receiver or whatever?
Receivers, running backs.
And then obviously the Formula One show that started it all back a couple of years ago. So, you know, what's a huge market quite like SEC football. So I mean, they're going to be following the best characters you can in the SEC. You got Brian Kelly, Shane Beamer, DJ Lagway, and Diego Pavia to be featured. So that'll be an exciting show. Comes out, I believe, sometime in August. Let me get that.
Because I know WWE, they're having their Unreal show that goes behind the scene. I think that comes out July 28th.
Yeah, but it comes out next Tuesday.
Yeah, next Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to that too.
Let's see when it comes out. That will be... Okay, now it just wants me to buy Netflix. It's coming out sometime soon.
But we know. We know it's coming out.
I would say everybody's got Netflix, so it'll be up there one day. But it should be a great show. I mean, college football is always something you want a little more behind the scenes on. So you'll be getting it with that. Former Tennessee edge rusher Byron Young has partnered with Dollar General to give away more than 300 backpacks and award an elementary school with $50,000 to their literacy initiatives program. The Ram Star is helping out Pleasant Hill Elementary School in his home state of South Carolina. So love to see the players giving back to the community, and especially
Byron Young.
Yeah.
I mean, if you I know you know the story, but I don't know if other people know his story about how he came up and how he got to Tennessee and just all he had to go through. And now he's one of the best, defensive line guys when it comes to the NFL, and probably the best for the Rams. He was like a 6th round pick, wasn't he? Something like that.
Somewhere around there. He was a middle round pick.
Middle round pick. So I mean, the time that we had for Byron Young in Tennessee and how he's doing in the NFL now and what he's doing with his fame spotlight and money to give back. I mean, it's just he's one of those truly special guys.
And see, there was a defensive lineman that played at Alabama who was same position and also named Byron Young. And I believe I don't remember if it was him or the other Byron Young, but they got confused with each other at the draft, and like the team called the wrong one on accident. So, bit of a funny story. We'll turn it over to something a little more on the sad side. Ole Miss incoming freshman defensive lineman Corey Adams was killed in a shooting Saturday night in Cordova. Adams was two-time All-State player out of Edna Carr High School in New Orleans. Hate to see that. He was a very, very
young guy.
Yeah. He was about.
He's probably gonna be a starter that year.
Just 18 years old. Didn't get to see the field, so thoughts are with Corey's family and the Ole Miss football family. You never want to see a player pass away, especially that young. But we had the SEC Media Days last week. We got the football poll. We talked about it earlier on X Sports today, but we'll go over it a little bit. Hayden, obviously Texas at 1. I think that's kind of a consensus pick. Yeah. One of the best coaches, one of the best quarterbacks. That's easy. Georgia at 2. They're going to be a very, very young Georgia team and kind of inexperienced compared to what we're used to seeing with Georgia. But
they got Kirby on your
But you have Kirby Smart, so as long as he's there, Georgia's going to be in the top 2 or 3 preseason every year. Alabama at number 3 with Kalen DeBoer entering his second season. I think he's going to be a lot more comfortable now. I feel like last year he
transition.
He put too much pressure on himself, maybe to try to be perfect like Nick Saban was, and that is just not too, I guess, reasonable of a side. But again, Alabama could very well be a 10 or 11 win team this year.
Look at their recruits.
Yeah, and their recruiting is back to where it should be, or where it was, especially during the Nick Saban era. So Alabama 3, LSU at 4. I think that's a little high, but again. They got the quarterback. They got a good coach. They'll. It's a hard place to play at LSU. So
I'd probably put them at like 5 or 6.
And then a pair of teams that I think are a little too high: South Carolina at 5, Florida at 6. These are kind of those question mark teams where if their quarterbacks play like everybody thinks they can and make the step up from what they did last year, 5 and 6 is the best spot to put them.
Yeah.
But if it's maybe a little bit of a regression from last year, which I think we're probably going to see from both of them, Sellers and DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
Probably closer to the 8, 9, 10 range, but again, not too high. A team that we think is a little underrated, Ole Miss at number 7.
Yeah.
Austin Simmons coming in and will be his first year starting at Ole Miss, but it's first year post Jackson Dart. How is Ole Miss going to transition? They made a smooth transition from Matt Corral to Jackson Dart, and I assume it will be just.
I think it'll be just exactly.
Yeah, just as smooth. I mean, Lane Kiffin is an excellent quarterback whisperer. I mean, he made Blake Sims a 3,500-yard passer at Alabama, and I mean, that guy should not have been like that had that crazy of good of a season. A&M at 8, I think that's fair. I think they're a middle of the road team. Tennessee at 9, again, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think
a lot of question marks with those teams.
And that's the thing with if these teams can answer those questions, they could be at that 5-6 spot like South Carolina and Florida are. But I think that that those are two teams that have a little more questions than they have answers. Yeah. So
I would say South Carolina, they've got questions, but they have a little bit maybe more answers than Tennessee and Ole Miss and A&M. Just those teams. This is a safe poll, I would say.
Yeah, and again, I think that's what the media is doing, is just what we think we know about these teams so far. Again, you got to play the games. If this poll is 100% correct, then that would be crazy. I don't think it's ever happened before. Oklahoma at 10. Again, another team with a lot of questions. They were not very good last year with Jackson Arnold, but they bring in John Mateer, bring in Caleb Orr, the running back.
Brent Venables might be on the hot seat.
Yeah, I would say Venables is definitely a guy that's job's a little more stressful than most because he's at Oklahoma and they've had one good year really since he's been there. It's been 5-7 and then 10-2 and then 5-7 again. So Oklahoma looking to kind of get back on the right page in year 2 in the SEC. Auburn at 11, another team that I think is very similar to Oklahoma. If everything goes perfect for Auburn, they could be 10-2.
Yeah.
But if things don't go well for Auburn, like they have they could be 4-8 or 5-7. And with as much golf as Hugh Freeze has been playing, it's looking more of that 5-7. Yeah. Number 12, Missouri. I think that's a fair spot. They're replacing a lot. They have a favorable schedule, but they lost a lot from last year.
Losing Brady Cook is a hit for them.
Yeah, and we saw the one game I don't know if he missed more than one game, but the first game he missed as the starting quarterback at Missouri was against Alabama last year.
When he got his head took off.
Yeah, and we saw how poor Missouri looked without him. Now I think Bo Perbula will be a pretty good quarterback. He could shock some people. Number 13, Vanderbilt. I think that's a fair spot for them. I think they're going to be just as talented, if not more talented than they were last year. But the problem is this year Vanderbilt's going to have a target on their head, which is a little unusual for them. Yeah. They're usually not the ones that kind of
There's no other place for them to go but up, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this is a very important year for Vanderbilt. We've seen the stuff Diego Pavia said this summer about how Vanderbilt's a couple of big wins away this year from potentially being that school to go to in Tennessee, and he might not be too crazy about it because if you start winning, people will start giving you money.
That's true.
Arkansas at 14, again they have a really tough schedule. I think they're going to be similar to what they were last year, kind of put up a ton of points, but they won't be able to stop a nosebleed. So it's
Taylor Green's probably the only promising thing.
I would say Taylor Green's going to throw for 4,000 yards, and
they'll still go 5-7.
And they'll go 5-7, 4-8. Because they got a rough schedule. They got Notre Dame coming to town. They've got to play the SEC. Kentucky at 15. I think we're probably on the last year of Mark Stoops at Kentucky. Yeah. And this is the first year in a while where we haven't seen a new coach anywhere in the SEC. These are all guys that have been here now this will be everybody at least entering their second year. But I do think that Stoops will probably be that first guy out the door. Yeah. It's a tough situation at Kentucky. They're not known for their football. They haven't been known for their football since Bear Bryant was there in the 50s. And so, it's a tough spot. They're not too confident really on either side of the ball. Quarterback's a big question mark for them because they've brought in some transfer quarterbacks over the past couple of years,
like Brock
Vandegrift and Devin O'Leary from NC State 2 years ago, and they've looked all right, but they didn't look great.
Yeah,
so definitely still a lot of question marks for Kentucky, and then rounding out the bottom, Mississippi State. They attacked the portal pretty hard, got some good players, but it's the SEC, and and nothing against Jeff Lebby. I think he's a tremendous offensive mind. I'm just not sure if he's SEC head coach material.
I think they'll have a better season as long as they stay healthy.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi State kind of those two, maybe one or two conference win kind of guy, and then when you get to the Missouris to I'd say probably 12-7, you could see anywhere from a 2-6 to a 6-2 season. Yeah. But I really do think the top four is probably, at least the top three is set in stone. I don't think
probably be 7-3, 8-2 teams.
Yeah, I think I think Texas will probably
go undefeated.
Probably undefeated in the SEC. Depends on that trip to Georgia, because Georgia, a blessing and a curse. They host both Texas and Alabama this year, so definitely some interesting games in Athens. We got a little continuation of the Nico Iamaleava drama. Everybody remembers the last Friday before the spring game, he did not show up to practice. He did not talk to anybody. He didn't tell his coaches what happened. And then Sunday he was seen in B&A taking a flight west back home to L.A., and transferred to UCLA shortly after. But ESPN college football analyst Kirk Herbstreit was on a Try That in a Small Town podcast earlier this week, talking about a plethora of college football topics. But they brought up the Nico Iamaleava thing, and Herbie said that Big Nick, Nico's father, told Josh Heupel before they had a meeting in December before the Ohio State playoff game, and said, "Listen, you got to get better around him if you want us to stick around." That wasn't a demand for more money. That was a demand for more talent. And obviously we saw almost an exodus of the wide receiver room at Tennessee, everybody getting thrown out. But I do think, there are obviously some things that have come out about Boo Carter recently, but it looks like the locker room is in a much better place now, because if you have the quarterback's dad going up to a major college football coach and saying, we need better players around us, I mean, that's crazy. You're not going to see...
It's not the pros.
You're not going to see Tua or Jalen Hurts' dad go up to Nick Saban and say, hey, you got to get better around us. Now, the problem was they didn't need to get better around him, but same thing. You're not this isn't high school. You can't go up to the coach and yell at him. I mean, you shouldn't do that in high school either. I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying that...
Should be doing that's coach.
Yeah, this is some high school Pee-wee level stuff right here, telling the coach, hey, we want better players. But...
I still believe a lot of it still had to do with money as well.
Yeah.
With NIL. He was probably the most expensive NIL deal until Carson Beck this past year.
He was definitely and Arch, being in that first class that was going to be receiving full NIL benefits. Yeah. They were definitely at the forefront of it with, I think it was Nico was making somewhere in the high twos, low 2 millions, and Arch probably in the fours by now.
Yeah, but I mean, just overall, it's like what you said about overall, a coach and a quarterback's dad having that discussion shouldn't be.
I don't think it's a problem for a quarterback's dad to have a relationship with the coach. I think that's perfectly fine, because with a guy like Josh Heupel and guys like Lane Kiffin, guys and Steve Sarkisian that are they're quarterback whisperers, that quarterback is their son pretty much for the next 2, 3, 4 years, however long the kid's around. So, having a relationship with the quarterback's family, I think, is perfectly normal. But to get to a point where you're making demands to a coach who really has no control, not much control over who transfers in and who transfers out.
But you got to look at that 2022 team, Hendon Hooker. Do you think those wide receivers, in your opinion, were better than what they had this past season? I know injuries were an issue.
I would say I do think they might be pretty even, because you look at Jalen Hyatt. He wasn't, he hasn't.
Cedric Tillman.
He hasn't gotten much of that opportunity in the NFL, obviously. But man, he was just the guy that was running wide open every time, and had a quarterback that could hit him. Cedric Tillman has started to have a really good career with the Browns. Velus Jones and guys like that. He's a pretty good special teamer for the Bears. But in this team, I think Brew McCoy, if he didn't have that ankle injury, I think would have been drafted and will probably be. I assume he's Keaton. Ramel Keaton guy. I do think that the wide receiver wasn't the room wasn't as good, but I do think that the room had more potential and could have looked a lot better if. Because after that tweet was put out, that clip of Herbie saying that, it was a lot of Tennessee fans quote tweeting it and putting videos of like the all 22 angle where you can kind of see the layout of the play, and wide receivers running wide open right down the field with a hand up, and
Nico missed
him or wasn't even looking at him. Yeah. So I don't. I don't think they needed better players. Josh Heupel's still drawing guys wide open.
He's proven he's an offensive mind and he can get guys open. We saw it for 2 years straight.
But I would say look at 21 and 22. Hendon Hooker was
throwing dots.
Exactly, because Joe Milton was overthrowing everybody in 21 early start of the season, and then
Nico wasn't seeing them.
Exactly, and now that I think Joey Aguilar is a much better deep threat.
Yeah,
and I think the guys that we got coming in, I think George McIntyre.
I think his IQ is a whole lot better than Nico's is.
Well, and that's the thing, Joey's been around. This will be his 5th year of college football. He's seen a lot, and he's been at I'm not sure if he was D2 or JUCO before he made that jump to Appalachian State, and played 2 years at App State. And while his numbers, he may have turned the ball over a little too much, his numbers looked good.
Yeah, I mean he threw over 4,000 yards.
Yeah. So again, if he got to get better around him if you want us to stick around. It's just a outrageous statement.
I mean, I hope Nico still has a good career.
I'm not
hating against the kid.
Yeah, I'm not going to hate watch UCLA football. I wish him the best because I do think that most of this has been kind of controlled by his father and his family and stuff like that, and agent and whatnot. So I would say I wish him the best because in the situation he's been put in, I'm not sure if he did it himself or not, but the situation he's been put in is definitely not looking great for his future.
It's made him look like the bad guy.
Yeah, and you don't see guys transfer in the spring expecting to be the starting quarterback somewhere in the fall because he's got to learn a whole new system, all this stuff. So definitely a bit of a struggle there for Nico. The Athletic released their top 10 most valuable college football programs. 6 of the top 10 are in the SEC. Obviously, Texas number 1. I mean, they spent, I believe, close to $30 million for a roster this year. Georgia at number 2. Again, they're heavy in the transfer portal. Alabama at 6. Oklahoma at 7 was a little surprising. Yeah. And again, you think of the 90s and early 2000s when Oklahoma was a program, but a couple of years ago, Texas A&M was number 1, and now they're not even in the top 10. For Oklahoma to still be at 7 is showed what the value in that program still is. Tennessee at 9, LSU at 10. So, I mean, those are probably when you look at transfer portals, because this is just football programs, but when you look at transfer portal, those are probably the 6 most glamorous places you can land in the SEC. You're looking for a Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, or LSU because those are the guys that are going to be able to offer you the most money. And then not necessarily SEC news, but kind of local news, so to speak. Memphis made an offer Monday, a $200 million offer to try to join the Big 12. They're currently in the American Conference, and we've seen teams from the American recently jump ship to the Big 12. We saw Cincinnati in there. We saw UCF in there. Memphis made a $200 million offer. That's the biggest offer that had been made to join a major conference like this, and the Big 12 said, we're good. So Memphis will remain in the newly named American Conference. So it's no longer the American Athletic Conference, just the American. I still think give it about 2 or 3 years, and they'll eventually. And that's the thing, because around the time that they had Paxton Lynch and Memphis, I think Memphis beat Ole Miss a couple years. Yeah. Now, okay, me thinking a couple years ago, it was probably like 2016, 2015. So probably about a decade ago. But still, Memphis has been a pretty good college football team over the past couple of years. I remember it was 2019 maybe. They had College Game Day was in Memphis, and they had like Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit calling the game. They had SMU in town, and they almost ran them out of the building. I mean, it was a fun time. So Memphis trying to make that next step in college sports. I think they're going to have to look at more than just football and basketball because I'm not sure. Nobody really talks about Memphis's baseball or the women's basketball. So once they maybe can bolster those programs up a bit, I think the Big 12 would love to have a team like Memphis. Coming up next, we got some interesting comments from Indiana head coach Curt Cignetti, and we'll talk about those when we come back here on the SEC Tailgate.
Storing Lee Furniture is not just some huge chain store, but we do have a 144,000 square foot showroom right here in Leoma, Tennessee. The Story family has worked together in the business now for 55 years. And a familiar face is here to help you with whatever you need. That's what being a part of the community right here in the Tennessee Valley means. And if you have an issue, we're right here to take care of it. And don't forget free delivery. We invite you to come see us. We're Storing Lee Furniture.
Good Works at Home, formerly known as The Summit at Home, is a licensed non-skilled agency dedicated to helping you maintain your independence at home for as long as possible. Our compassionate and caring staff provide support in various areas, including dressing, bathing, personal hygiene, transportation, cleaning, and companionship. Please call our office about services, payment options, and long-term care policies at 931-762-2310. We look forward to assisting you with keeping your independence longer.
For high school athletes, every game counts. You push your limits and you chase your dreams. But when injury strikes, you need more than just recovery. At Southern Tennessee Orthopedics, we're here to get you back in the game faster and stronger. From cutting-edge treatments to personalized and compassionate care, we're here for your every move. Our specialized team of experts encompass decades of experience in sports-related injuries, Dr. Paul Thomas, Melanie Durham, and Julie Marcus offer the most comprehensive care from diagnosis to recovery. With advanced treatments and tailored rehabilitation plans, will help you heal stronger and faster. Trust Southern Tennessee Orthopedics to keep you at your best because your future is worth it.
For the best meal from south of the border, head to Cocina Real in Puente Grande for lunch and dinner. With a wide array of mouth-watering entrees, there's something for everyone on the menu. And you can't forget the cheese dip. They'll treat you like family, and you'll never leave hungry. Make Cocina Real Mexican Restaurant and Puente Grande Mexican Restaurant your choice for authentic cuisine, located in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
There are now more ways to save at Quick Mart. Become a Quick Club member and easily earn rewards on qualifying purchases at Quick Mart convenience stores using the Quick Club app, available on the Apple App Store and Google Play. To save on fuel for work, use the Fuel Rewards Pro app to earn 5 cents a gallon on work fill-ups and redeem the savings for yourself. To get started, visit fuelrewards.com/pro or download the app in the Apple App Store and Google Play.
Got a dent, a ding, a scratch, or a bent fender? Major or minor, Car Country Collision Center in Leoma can fix you up. Car Country works with all insurance carriers, gives free estimates, can work on foreign and domestic vehicles, and has experience you can trust. They've been in business since 1990. Unfortunately, accidents happen, but you can get your car back on the road with as little hassle as possible with the help of Car Country. Call 931-852-4708 or stop by at 2567 Highway 43 South in Leoma.
Welcome to Employee Resources Credit Union, where you're more than just a number, you're family. We provide financial solutions that rise above those of traditional banks. With roots stretching back to 1964, we've served 4 generations during constant industry changes. We're known for our low fees and incredible rates. Join us and experience the credit union difference. ERCU, not for profit, for service.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to SEC Tailgate. Michael Marks alongside Hayden Burks. And Hayden, it's SEC, it's media day season. I mean, we had some guys. AJ was down in Sheffield yesterday with the high school's media days. We've seen the Big Ten, the ACC, Big 12, SEC all having their media days. And Coach Kurt Signetti of the Indiana Hoosiers had some interesting thoughts at Big Ten Media Days. Now, Indiana is coming off their most successful season ever in their football program's history. Went 11-2, made the playoff, looked somewhat competitive against Notre Dame, and if you look back at it, they played the 2 national championship teams pretty well. And that was their only 2 losses. It was their most wins since 1967 and 1945, where they won 9 games in each of those seasons. So their first double-digit win season ever. I think it's great, the growth of football in the Big Ten. And Signetti was kind of the darling of college football last season. He got his first power position at Indiana. He was 62 years old. I mean, he's not a young guy. Yeah. He's been through the ranks. He was He was the wide receivers and recruiting coordinator at Alabama the first couple years of the Nick Saban era. Went around to IUP, Elon. James Madison was with them during their transition from the FCS to FBS. And then, obviously, last season got hired at Indiana. But as the season went on, people started getting a little skeptical because of their schedule. You see every SEC team pretty much will play their 8 conference games and then 1 Power 4 opponent. The Big Ten plays 9 conference games and doesn't require that power opponent. So Indiana has canceled 2 of those 2 series against Power 4 opponents since Signetti's been there. Louisville, they canceled the series with Louisville last year, and then Virginia just recently, as their conference, when it comes to scheduling, doesn't require you to play any of those games. But the SEC, I'm not sure if it's required, but they strongly, strongly want you to do that. And then at media days, when Signetti was asked about this, he said, "We figured we'd adopt an SEC coaching philosophy." scheduling philosophy, mentioning that the SEC only plays 8 conference games, and each year they play 1 FCS game. So 24/7 Sports, who is owned by CBS, who was the primary, spot for the Big Ten, released their top 10 hardest schedules in the country, and the SEC was 6 of the top 7, and that other one was in Indiana. ESPN says that the SEC has 9 of the top 10 toughest schedules. Yeah. So I decided to look at the SEC schedules this year and kind of look at what they got coming up for these big non-conference games. And we'll see if anything Signetti says has a bit of traction, because just basing off the top of the head, everybody that's an SEC guy thinks he's an idiot, and everybody that is everybody else is like, yeah, the SEC doesn't play anybody because Alabama plays Mercer in November. Well,
could be a game.
Well, yeah, it could be, but the way Tennessee does things with when it comes to FCS teams is they try to play an in-state team.
Yes.
They've played ETSU, they play UT Chattanooga, they play UT Martin. They're working on getting Tennessee State on the schedule pretty soon. So they do it, and these FCS schools get paid like in the 7 figures to
look at Kent State last year. They got $3 million for recruiting last year just to play. So, they did take a butt whooping, but then again, it goes a long way, because that's $3 million of recruiting from Tennessee that basically Tennessee paid for.
Exactly. And with the in-state schools, is Tennessee's trying to help, bolster the programs of these in-state schools by doing that. So we'll take a quick look. Alabama this year, they have 2 Power 4 games out of conference at Florida State and Wisconsin. Now, Florida State was not very good last year, neither was Wisconsin. I think Florida State will be a lot better this year. I think Alabama will probably still kill them, but I think Florida State will be an 8-4 team.
Yeah.
But Wisconsin probably won't be very good. No. But again, when these contracts were signed 8 to 10 years ago, Wisconsin and Florida State were kind of the upper echelon in their own conference, where now they've kind of fallen off. Yeah. Arkansas, they got to play Notre Dame, who is coming off a national championship game appearance and have a Heisman favorite, or we'll say candidate at running back.
Absolutely going to dog walk them too.
Probably, yeah. So it'll be a fun trip to Fayetteville for the Irish. Auburn, their first game of the year is actually at Baylor on a Friday night, August 29th. So that'll be
I like Baylor in that game.
And again, Baylor 8-5 last year, had a bit of a rough start to the season, but as they got later in the year, got a lot better. They're returning Sawyer Robertson, the quarterback. That was one of those names that was kind of thrown around when Nico left to bring into Tennessee. He's over 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, really good. Florida's got a tough one. They got to go to Miami and Florida State. Obviously, we just talked about Florida State, but Miami 10-3 last year. Brought in Carson Beck, who if you're looking at it from an SEC fan's perspective, you're like, well, this dude stinks. Why are you bringing that up? Well, he threw for 3,500 yards and 28 touchdowns with the team that led the country in drops at Georgia, which probably would have cut his interceptions in half and maybe give him a couple hundred yards and a couple touchdowns. And Mike Bobo was his offensive coordinator at Georgia.
Tells you everything.
Enough said there. So, and you look at the jump that Cam Ward made last year from going from Washington State to Mario Cristobal's offense. Cam Ward was going to get drafted out of Washington State, but went to Miami and became the #1 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And sadly, probably one of the least talked about #1 picks in the draft. But we'll talk about NFL probably sometime later. Georgia, now they're one of the teams that Signetti's probably talking about. Their only non-conference Power 4 opponent is Georgia Tech. And that's a rivalry game. They play that every year. But Georgia Tech, man, they were 7-6 last year. Lost a tough bowl game to Vanderbilt, but they took Georgia to 8 overtimes on Black Friday in Athens, and was probably a couple 2-point conversion plays away from winning that game.
Yeah. I'm high on Georgia Tech.
And they got Haynes King back. Brent Key's still their coach. So the players love playing for that guy. So I think Georgia Tech will be very good this year. Kentucky, another one of those teams. They're just playing Louisville, their conference rival, again on the road. Louisville 9-4 last year. They still got Jeff Brom as their head coach entering his 3rd year. He's won 19 games in 2 years. And they brought in Miller Moss from USC. Kid, I think, is going to be a great quarterback. In 9 games, he threw for 2,500 yards last year at USC. And you look, and he got benched because of the struggles that USC was having. But you look, and most of those games were games that they very well could have won. They could have beat Penn State at home. They could have beat Michigan on the road. But just had kind of a bad draw there. But again, Jeff Brom in his 1 year with quarterback made Jack Plummer look really, really good. Got Tyler Shuck drafted really high this past year. He's good with quarterbacks. And again, I think Louisville will be a very good team. LSU, they got to go to Clemson week 1. And Clemson's, they may have had a couple of years where they weren't in the 4-team playoff, but Clemson, I'm not sure if they're back, but they're getting there.
Yeah.
They're 10-4 last year, won the ACC, made the college football playoff. They got Cade Klubnik back. They got a bunch of the defense back, and that defense was stout last year, and it'll be even better this year. Mississippi State, I didn't realize this. Well, looking back, hindsight's 2020, but their non-conference team was Arizona State, which you'd think early in the year, like, gosh, why did they lose that game? And now you're looking, it's like, dang,
that makes sense.
That was a playoff team.
Yeah,
but Arizona
State could have won a playoff game too.
Very, very well could have beat Texas. Again, they host Arizona State. Mississippi State does this year. They went 11-3 last year, won the Big 12, made the playoff. They got Sam Leavitt, the quarterback, coming back. No Cam Scatterbo, so I think they will take a step back. But from 11-3 to like maybe a 10-4, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll take a big step back.
No.
Missouri, they're another one that's got a bit of a rough draw. It's Kansas, and Kansas is not known for football. We'll just put it that way.
But they're known for spoiler.
Yes. They went 5-7 last year. But looking at their schedule, Hayden, 5 of those losses were within 6 points.
Yeah.
Let me see if I still...
They can play spoiler. I mean, that's just it's a fact of life for them.
So looking at their schedule last year, they started the season 1-5, terribly. But you look at their losses. At Illinois, who ended up being a very good team last year, lost by 6. UNLV, who was a very good team in the Mountain West, lost by 3. At West Virginia, lost by 4. TCU beat them, by 11. They went to Arizona State, lost by 4. And then their last 4 of their last 5 games, they went on an incredible run. They almost beat Kansas State on the road in the Sunflower Showdown. They beat Iowa State. They went on the road and beat BYU, and they beat Colorado. So, I mean, then they got smoked by Baylor in their last game. That's neither here nor there. But Kansas could have a little momentum coming into 2025 now, and the game's around week 2 or week 3, so it's an early.
They're good towards the start of the season or the back end.
Yeah,
of the season.
so not both. Just depends on what you get. But
yeah.
again, Missouri, Kansas, responsible for one of the best football games of the last 20 years. 2007. That was an excellent game. If we can get anything close to that, we'll be blessed. And again, I think those are 2 teams probably on similar playing fields coming into this year. Oklahoma, they host Michigan. Michigan, again, we talked about 8-5 last year, but they ended the season. And you get coming off a national championship 8-5, you're like, oh, that was terrible. But they didn't have a quarterback that could complete a forward pass. Like we talked about on our show earlier, they had the 4th least passing yards in the country.
Yep.
Only ahead of the 3 service academies that still run the wing the wing T. So 8-5 last year, but they beat Ohio State and Alabama in their last 2 games, and then they brought in the number 1 quarterback in the country, in Bryce Underwood, who is apparently having a really good summer.
I think he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, and I mean they spent enough money on him. I will say that. Ole Miss, another one of those teams, a little iffy. They play Washington State and Tulane. I mean, we'll see what Washington State can do because you think, oh, they lost their quarterback again. Well, they lost Cam Ward. John Mateer showed up.
Yep.
They lose John Mateer. We'll see who shows up. Washington State could be entertaining, but I don't think they got to travel to Ole Miss, which is 2 time zones over. Which, if you saw the record of the Big Ten teams that had to travel more than 2 time zones, it was not very good.
Yep.
Tulane, I think, could be a good game. They've played SEC teams pretty close recently. And South Carolina, they got Virginia Tech and Clemson. Virginia Tech, a middle of the pack ACC team, but again, they almost upset Miami last year. I think they can they can make some noise in the ACC. Don't think that they'll be good enough to probably beat South Carolina, but South Carolina almost lost week 1 to Old Dominion last year. So
yeah, we've seen crazier things.
You never know what you're going to get from, and the Virginia Tech lost week 1 to Vanderbilt. So you really never know what you're seeing. Tennessee obviously got Syracuse, who went 10-3 last year, had a 4,800 yard passer. They're going to have a new quarterback this year in Steve Angeli, the transfer from Notre Dame, who I assume he's transferred because he didn't think he was going to be the starter at Notre Dame. But I think C.J. Carr is going to be really good for the Irish. Syracuse they were picked pretty low in the ACC media poll. Yeah. But I love Fran Brown. I think they're going to be a good team this year. I probably won't beat Tennessee, but that's just me speaking with my nice orange shirt on.
Yeah.
Texas,
I'm with you on that one.
Texas, love what they're doing. They're coming off a tough loss in the playoff semifinals. So what are they going to do? They'll go to Ohio State, and they're going to play them again. Now, Ohio State, they're Ohio State. They still got Ryan Day. They still got a lot of money. They still got a lot of players.
Still got Jeremiah too.
Exactly. Now they lost a bunch of players from last year. They there's not going to be a
Will Howard.
Will Howard. I would say couldn't think of their quarterback's name. No Quinshawn Judkins. No Travion Henderson. No Emeka Ibuka. I think Julian Fleming or I think Cornell Tate may have transferred.
I'm not
I may
sure.
have heard that wrong.
I'm not sure.
But you're losing Jack Sawyer, Simon, the guys like that, and you lost Jim Knowles to your rival in Penn State, your defensive coordinator, who was drawing up all those schemes. So that's going to be the game of week one. Unfortunately, Tennessee and Syracuse will be playing at the same time, so we're going to have the two TV setup going.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, obviously, they got to travel to South Bend. So Notre Dame's got two SEC teams on their schedule. Probably beat both of them.
Yeah,
but
Arkansas for sure. Yeah.
But again, that A&M Notre Dame game was a great week one game. I assume we'll see one is equally as good. And then Vanderbilt got to travel to Blacksburg to play Virginia Tech. Hopefully it's a night game. Love seeing that place jumping at night. So out of the 16 SEC teams, I see one, we'll say 2 or 3 teams that maybe have kind of skipped playing tough teams, but most of these were contracts that were signed long ago, and most of them are pretty even. So Cignetti dropping games with Louisville and Virginia makes it look like he's a little scared.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, Indiana's schedule coming up, I mean, their non-conference schedule is almost a joke. I mean,
their damage is going to come within their conference. That's what it's going to be for sure.
And now, we can sit here and say this, but I think that the SEC also tries to schedule easier games out of conference for the singular fact that you're playing 8 SEC games and they're tough.
Yeah.
Every week you're getting punched in the mouth. And when it comes to the Big Ten, let's just look at some of the conference games for Indiana. Obviously, they start off their season with their 3 non-conference games: Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State.
Yep.
They're going to kill all 3 of those teams.
Yes, absolutely.
Then they got to play Illinois. That's going to be a tough one. Iowa, probably not. Michigan State, not much worried about them. UCLA, they're bad. Yeah. Maryland, probably not very good. Wisconsin won't be very good. Purdue won't be very good. They have, 2 games that you could say you're worried about, and it's Illinois, Oregon, and Penn State. Yeah. So they have 3 games that would be tough. If you throw Mississippi State this schedule, they probably win 7 or 8 games.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the argument that the SEC is trying to make when it comes to the trying to make that jump to non-conference games and them not wanting to, is because their 8 conference games are harder than any other 8 conference games that you're going to see across the country, because most of these conferences are very, very top heavy.
Yeah.
Like the Big 12. You look at the the TCUs and the BYUs and the Iowa States and the Arizona States. They're really good. And then you look at Arizona, not that great. The teams like that aren't really doing much. UCF wasn't great. Cincinnati's not very good. Yep. So
just things like that. You have to keep your eye open for it.
But again, I mean, it's college football. Anything can happen. Indiana could go 1-10, 1-11 this year, and it'd be crazy, but it could very well happen. Coming up next, we've put you guys on a bit of a hold for this, teasing it for about a week and a half now. But we got the SEC coaches rankings coming up next here on the SEC Tailgate.
Arctic Air keeps your home or business comfortable. For more than 20 years, we provided outstanding residential and commercial services through southern Middle Tennessee. Whether you need assistance with your heat, air conditioning, preventive maintenance, or anything in between, trust our reliable team to get the job done. We'll take the time to figure out your specific needs and recommend what we believe is right and best for your situation.
We've been using Arctic Air for over 15 years now. Their service is great, they're here when we need them, and their prices are competitive. They take the worry out of the heat and air so I don't have to.
Arctic Air. When you need us, we'll be there.
From our humble beginnings to today, Parks Lumber Company has continuously served Lawrence and surrounding counties for over a century. Although we started as a small lumber yard in 1896, we have grown to include everything you need to make your dream project come to life. No matter your building needs, our experienced staff will be with you every step of the way to ensure you receive the highest customer service and attention to detail you deserve. Visit us at 106 2nd Street or on Facebook. We guarantee you will see working with PLC is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
For decades, First Class Charter has provided high-quality motor coach transportation services to the Tennessee Valley. With numerous safety and cleanliness accreditations, First Class Charter is ready to make your group trip a reality. Contact us today by visiting firstclasscharter.net. First Class Charter, the official motor coach company of the North Alabama Lions.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to SEC Tailgate. We got the last segment coming up, and we've been trying to get this segment in there for forever, but again, schedules have just been so crazy that we haven't even had time for our show. We got the SEC coaches rankings heading in to, and these are as of July 23rd, 2025.
We've had enough time to do our research.
Definitely. So we'll start off number 16. I think we got the same guy, probably Jeff Levy.
Yep, I'm going to go with Jeff Levy. It's like you said earlier, good young coach, really well-rounded offensive mind for Mississippi State's got a good quarterback coming back. Had some injury problems last year. Shapen, is it?
Yeah, Blake Shapen.
Blake Shapen. He was injured for most of the season last year, so I think they'll take a step up. But then, I think I'm with you. I think the SEC's kind of a little bit too much for him right now. Once he gets a little bit more under his belt, I think they could take that next step and try to get to that mid pack of the SEC. So I'm going to put him at 16 for now.
Yeah, Levy 2-10 in his first year in the SEC. Definitely not how he wanted to go. He's a very good offensive mind, though. He spent some time with Heupel at UCF from 2018 to 2019. He was his OC and QB coach. Then we spent a couple years with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss in 20 and 2021. And we saw what he did with Matt Corral. So and then 2022 and 23 at Oklahoma with Spencer Rattler. Well, the first year was Spencer Rattler. The second year was Caleb Williams, and we saw how well that went. But then took the job at Mississippi State after Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma, and it seems like it could be a good fit. It's just. It's a tough spot, Mississippi State is.
I wouldn't say the laughing stock of the SEC,
and they're not because they've had years where they're good. They were good in the late '90s. They were good in the mid 2010s with Dan Mullen, but it's hard to recruit. Mississippi's got a lot of good recruits, but Alabama's right next door. LSU's right next door. Ole Miss is starting to get all the in-state guys, so they've kind of fallen behind, and maybe Levy could have a good year this year, but if not, I don't think he'll get fired this year unless they go like 0-12 or something unheard of, but could be a bit of a tough year for Levy. Yep. All right, number 15.
Okay, I think we probably got the same guy again, so I'm going to go with Sam Pittman. We obviously know he's on the hot seat for Arkansas. Got a really good quarterback with Taylor Green, can obviously throw the football like nobody else in the college football. But then again, it's just coming up with wins, and they just haven't been able to win games for real. We saw them beat Tennessee last year in Fayetteville. But you just look at the team around him, and you got to think that Sam Pittman's just not made the right adjustments to put them in winning situations. So I'm going to put him at 15.
Yeah, Pittman, career record of 30 and 31. Again, Arkansas is his first big college job. He was a head coach at Hutchinson Community College for 2 years back in the 90s. But was Georgia's offensive line coach in the first couple of years under Kirby Smart. And, it looked like it was a great hire for Arkansas in 2020. They had a good start to the year, I believe, in 2021. They were like number 8 or number 9 in the country and went to Athens and got whooped, and then haven't been able to.
Were they 4-1 at that point?
Yeah, and then got whooped and haven't really been able to make it back. Again, he's on the hot seat. He's got a tough schedule, so I got Sam Pittman at number 15. Yeah. Number 14.
I'm going to go with the golf boy himself, Hugh Freeze, at 14. Obviously, we know Hugh Freeze. Auburn's just a football school, and they haven't shown it. We talked about how every other year they have, good years and bad years here and there. But Hugh Freeze, he's just not really lived up to it. He's not really brought the talent. I mean, I know they've had good recruits. They've had a bunch of 5 and 4 stars come in this past season. But you just look at how and translate, and he's just really he's definitely on the hot seat as well, in my opinion. It's just not really translating. He's not showing up for wins either, so I'm going to put him at number 14.
Yeah, my number 14, I got Mark Stoops at Kentucky. Again, I think if you did this list in 2020, I'd probably have him in the top 5. I think Mark Stoops is a great coach, but I do think his time at Kentucky is probably coming towards an end. He's been the head coach at Kentucky since 2013, and when he got there, they were bad. I mean, it's Kentucky football; they're bad. He's beaten Tennessee twice, which I don't think any Kentucky coach has ever done, at least in the modern era. He's making good money, but it's just he's kind of gone downhill. He was the defensive coordinator for that Florida State team that was so good that won the national championship. And he had a little bit of a run from really 2017 to I'd say 2022 that was pretty good. I mean, they've before last year they had gone on a 8-year stretch where they had made 8 straight bowl games and went 4-4 in them, and even won the Citrus Bowl in 2021. But since then, he's coming off of Terry Wilson and then Will Levis, and had some good quarterback play, and it's kind of slowly declined. And as that's happened, his defense is kind of falling behind as well. He's known as a defensive guy. And it's not to say that Kentucky was terrible or anything. If you look at last year, I mean, they had a couple of their wins were pretty big. I mean, they beat Ole Miss that noon game. And then you looked, I mean, they played some teams a little closer. I mean, the Texas game was kind of close at the beginning. They only lost to Georgia by 1 point.
Yeah, gave Georgia a scare.
Yeah, and they should have beat Georgia. I don't know why you punt in that situation, but that's neither here nor there. But again, Mark Stoops kind of on his way out the door at Kentucky. I got him at number 14. Number 13.
I'm going to go with Mark Stoops. Basically the same thing you said. Obviously, you look at just overall play when he was there from that time between 2013 to
16 to 23 was that bowl stretch.
That stretch, and then after that, it's just really kind of falling off a cliff. So like you said, maybe if we would have done this maybe 5 years ago during that time, I might put him in the top 5.
Because that's the thing. If you look, I mean, from that time, the 2016 to 2021, they were in the top half of the SEC East, which had Georgia with Kirby, Florida, with Dan Mullen was really good. Tennessee had some decent years in there. And now my number 13, I got Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. I got him a little low, obviously. 16-33 overall record at Vanderbilt. He had an impressive year last year.
Yeah,
it was a very good year for Vanderbilt. They went 7-6, and every other year it seems like he's not having the best year. Went 2-10 his first year, 5-7, 2-10, 7-6. So could be a rough year coming. But I would have had him a little higher based off of last year if Marcus Freeman wasn't doing what he was doing at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Now, given it's a different situation, but they both were the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame who went on to take head coaching jobs. Now, Vanderbilt is getting a lot better. I think they've earned some respect for some people. And this is a Vanderbilt guy. I mean, he was a fullback at Vanderbilt in the early 2000s. He went to Battleground Academy in Franklin. So this is a local guy trying to bring some prestige back to Vanderbilt, and I think he's given them a lot more respect than you would typically see from Vanderbilt. So Clark Lee at number 13. Hayden, you're number 12?
I'm going to go with Brent Venables. He's probably going to be low on my list. For my list, at least, he'd probably be a little bit higher on your list. But, just overall, you look at the talent, like you said. I mean, he's had a 5-7, then a 10-2, and then a 5-7. And I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat, but his seat's getting a little warm, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, a guy that's kind of been, really good at recruiting on both offensive and defensive side. I mean, we saw him his time where he's been at with any program he's been at. Obviously, you look at Clemson and other schools like that, but you just kind of got to look at the overall picture of where has he been and the talent he's had, and you just got to kind of there's a little head scratcher there. So I'm gonna put him at 12.
I got Hugh Freeze at number 12, Mr. Golf Boy. 11-14 record at Auburn has not been the most glamorous couple of years for the Tigers, but he's a West Tennessee guy. Was the head football coach at Briarcrest for a while, then Lambeth University out in Jackson. and then has kind of made his rounds around. He's been in the SEC before. He's beaten Alabama several times with Ole Miss. Then had the scandal, obviously, at Ole Miss, went to Liberty, kind of turned himself around, and then has been at Auburn for the past 2 years, where it's just not gone that well. I mean, I think that Auburn was willing to bite that bullet and bring in Hugh Freeze because he's one of those guys that had the ability to beat Nick Saban. Well, Nick Saban's not at Alabama anymore, and if usually Auburn's one of those teams that's good every other year. If they're good this year, I think he can probably stick around, but if it's another 5-7, 6-6 year coming for the Tigers, like some people say, we could be looking at a new coach on the Plains next year. Number 11.
We'll go with Clark Lee from Vanderbilt. Everything you said there. I've got really high hopes for him in Vanderbilt. Other than whenever they play Tennessee, I hope we absolutely destroy them. But I think that was a stepping stone for them getting to that bowl game, winning that bowl game against Georgia Tech, going 7-6 after the 2-10 season, 5-7 and 2-10. Beating Alabama, I think, was really big time for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have a tough schedule. They're going to have more of a target on their back now, just because like you said, they're getting respect by certain programs, but also they kind of got that arrogance to them now. So I'm going to put them at number 11, but I think that Vanderbilt's on the right track just because of Clark.
Yeah, and my number 11, Brent Venables. I'm a little higher on him because I have some high hopes. I think Oklahoma's going to be very good this year. 22-17 record at Oklahoma, but he's an Oklahoma guy. Most people, I think of him mostly as a Clemson guy, but he was at least the co-defensive coordinator at Oklahoma from 1999 to 2011. That big run when they had Stoops and Bob Stoops and all those talented players. He obviously coached was a coach at the time that Josh Heupel was there. So has a good relationship with him, but really solidified himself when he was the defensive coordinator at Clemson from 2012 to 2021. 22 took that job at Oklahoma. Has been a little less than glamorous. The first year, 6-7, lost in the Cheez-It Bowl. 23 was a good year. They went 10-3, and then last year again 6-7. Their first year in the SEC was not the best looking ever, but I think 2025 will be a good year for Oklahoma, and it needs to be, or he's going to be kind of following probably Pittman and Stoops, and will quickly be out the door. Number 10.
I'm going to go with Eli over in Missouri.
Ooh, okay.
Obviously, kind of we've seen how good he can be with what he's had. Beat Ohio State in that bowl game 2 years ago after the run they had, and then you look at just the overall I wouldn't say the fall off, but there's definitely been a fall off.
Definitely a disparity in talent.
Yeah, so, great offensive mind, can recruit really well. He's got a high-energy coach for Missouri. So, like I said, I can't put him at the top, but I can say, probably 2 years ago, I could probably put him in the top 5.
Yeah, I would say I have Coach Drink a little higher. My number 10, I got Billy Napier.
Okay.
He's actually an East Tennessee guy. Is from Cookeville. His family still lives in Cookeville, but was taken at Florida after I think they wrongly fired Dan Mullen. They were 1 year removed from almost being in the playoff and got rid of him. But had a good year, a good career at Louisiana Lafayette. His 19-19 at Florida. His first 2 years at Florida were a little tough. 6-7, 5-7. Had some big wins, had some big losses. But last year it seemed like Florida was kind of back on track. They came into the season with somewhat high aspirations, but also a little cautious because of that daunting schedule that they had, and they went 8-5.
Yeah,
and they won the Gasparilla Bowl, went 4-4 in conference. Was probably they probably should have beat Tennessee. Had a big win over LSU. I think Florida is on the up and up. I think Billy Napier is a great quarterback mind, and I think that if DJ Lagway can avoid having a big step back, then I think Florida could be an 8-4 or 9-3 team this year.
Yep. My number 9 is the guy that you just said, Billy Napier. Literally everything you just said, I think, like you said, as long as there's not a step back, I don't think he's really in any hot bird seat. Last year we saw going into the season, who's the guy on the Honda seat, and it was Billy Napier.
Yep.
And
the thing was people were saying, man, if he goes 5-7, they should probably keep him.
Yeah.
It's like, this is
with that schedule.
And there were talks very early in the season after that Miami game they're like, God, we got to get rid of this guy. We got to fire him. And then the AD came out and said, I'm with this guy. So a good move on Scott Strickland there, the AD at Florida, to keep Billy Napier around, because I think that's a good call.
Yeah, and he's my number 9 for everything you literally just said too.
Yeah, my number 9, I got Beamer Ball, old Shane Beamer down there at South Carolina. Actually an alumni of the University of Tennessee, if you didn't know that. Has been the head coach at Carolina for now. This will be his 4th year. He's got a winning record, 29-22. Obviously, South Carolina was in a bit of a rough spot when he got there. Will Muschamp, did not have a good run there. 2021 was a bit rough. Not the best season. But as he's kind of come along, 23 obviously wasn't a very good year, but 22, there were the cheating allegations. But Spencer Rattler had a great year. They lost to a very good Notre Dame team in the bowl game, and then this year kind of came out of nowhere, because after week 1 they had a close win against Old Dominion at home, and everybody's like, ooh, this South Carolina team might not be very good. Yeah. And then they went on the road week 2, opening conference play against Kentucky, and were like 10.5, 11-point underdogs and smoked them, and everybody's like, South Carolina good? And then they had that epic game with LSU week 3. And we're a bad pick 6 call away from winning that one. And then obviously, they had the big loss at Ole Miss. That one wasn't good, but probably should have beat Alabama.
Yeah,
and if you look at that, that's a 2-loss team that's probably in the playoff.
Yeah,
they were, I think, the first or second team out. I think they're probably the second team out. I think it was.
They were making a case to get in.
But they had a very good case. If they didn't have that big loss to Ole Miss, they probably would have had a better case. But again, I think Beamer. I think they'll have a good year this year. The schedule's a little tougher, so I don't think it'll be as good. And they lost a lot of defensive pieces, so maybe an 8-win season. But Beamer Ball is definitely looking good. Looking good there at South Carolina. Number 8.
We'll go with Mike Elko over in Texas A&M.
Okay.
Kind of came in, had to rejuvenate what the Aggies are. And we saw some amazing games for Texas A&M. That Texas game was unreal.
Yeah.
Had some playoff implications. Both teams could have been the SEC champions after that game. And I think there's nowhere really else to go from there but up for him, especially with that quarterback he's got too. So I'm going to put him at number 8. I really like where Texas A&M is going with Mike Elko as the coach.
All right, my number 8, Eli Drinkwitz, Coach Drink up there in Como. 38-24 record since 2020 with Missouri. Obviously, I think anybody that came in the COVID year should be given a ton of grace just because of the coaching job he did. Actually started his coaching career with former Auburn coach Brian Harsin, was his OC out there in Boise. And then made his way to App State for a year, had a really good year there, and then got hired at Missouri. And looking at it, the start wasn't great. No, they were the middle-of-the-road SEC team, and then you got Brady Cook, who came in at the end of 2022, led into 2023, where you got a Cotton Bowl win, 11 wins, and then 10 wins last year. I feel like you forget that Missouri was a 10-win team last year with a bunch of injury issues. Now, you lose Brady Cook, you lose some of those weapons, but you still got a very good offense coming into this year with a very, kind of a jack of all trades at quarterback with Bo Perbula. All right, number 7.
I'm going to go with Brian Kelly. I know I'm probably going to get crap for that, but we know Brian Kelly. I think in just my head, I think he looks really bad with the comment he made about Notre Dame really can't make it to the national championship, and look what they did. Ever since he's been to LSU, it's just kind of been, good seasons, but disappointing from the LSU standards. He can win games you're supposed to win, but when it comes to games that are close or that he, needs to win, he just can't figure out how to win them. And you look at that Florida game, you look at, he's beat Alabama how many times? Once, I think, since he's been there.
Yeah. And it was just his first year.
Yeah, it was just his first year. So just overall, I think Brian Kelly still got a lot to do, especially the recruits that come to LSU. So that's why he's my number 7.
My number 7, I got Mike Elko. Obviously, small sample size, but 8-5 in his first year in the SEC. Was a contender for the SEC championship game all the way up to the last week when they lost to Texas. This guy's a football nerd. He went to Penn. I think he's going to be a great coach for Texas A&M. But again, he's got to prove himself a little bit more, and that's why I got him at number 7. Number 6.
Kalen DeBoer out of Alabama. And the only reason I say that, we got to talking about it at lunch. He's probably a little bit higher on a lot of people's list. I've got him at 6 just because, overall transitioning from the Pac-12 at Washington, being in the national championship, going to the SEC is a completely different monster. He had several struggles throughout the season last year with Alabama, losing to that bowl game, to Michigan, losing to Oklahoma the way you did, and then losing to Vanderbilt after being number 1. But still had some highs too, played really, really well. Had a good coaching scheme against Georgia in the first half, and then kind of slowed down the second half there. But I'm going to put him at number 6. He could be higher at the end of the year, though.
Yeah, and I'm going to change mine up a little bit. Right now I'm going to change it up, but I'm going to put Brian Kelly at 6.
Okay.
Again, LSU. It was a weird hire when that was made. Notre Dame wasn't really happy with it, obviously, but I think this is something that paid off for both schools pretty well. Obviously, 29-11 record at LSU in his 4 years there. I think we'll be coming up to his 4th year this next year. But 10 wins his first 2 years, 9 wins last year. We'll have his quarterback coming back this year. I think they're going to be good again. But again, I just think he has that problem winning the big game. He's got that. He's got that the James Franklin bug. Just can't win that big game. Number 5.
I'm going to go with Beamer. Literally everything you said. It's a tougher schedule for South Carolina this upcoming year for Beamer. Like you said, I like Lenore, Sellers, but just overall, I think Beamer, like you said, he's kind of that goofy uncle that everybody wants to hang out with. Got a little bit of arrogance to him, but then again, when it comes to when South Carolina gets hot, they get hot. And overall, I think if he has that kind of season, Sellers has a good year. The defense can maybe live up to how they were last year. We could see a really good South Carolina team this year, and I think that could be because of Beamer.
I agree,
Beamer
and
ball.
I'm trying to leave my bias out of it. So at number 5, I have Josh Heupel. I think he's a very good coach. I think what he's done at Tennessee has been incredible. I was sitting here looking at it, and I'm like, wow, he's 37-15, man. I mean, Butch Jones had 15 losses after 2 seasons. Yeah. So the fact that Heupel's done, pretty much, other than his first year, he's been excellent. He's lost 9 games in his last 3 years. Yeah. So, an average 9-3 season, I would not complain about that at all, especially with what I had to grow up with at Tennessee. But I just think he's done a tremendous job. If you know the situation he came into, obviously at Tennessee in 2021, the Pruitt kind of debacle with a bunch of players having to leave, but a bunch of players choosing to leave,
losing scholarships.
Luckily, didn't get a bowl ban. And we've made a bowl game every year he's been there. I mean, he took over and
gave life back.
Really rejuvenated Tennessee back to. I mean, we got the almost the arrogance from the '90s coming back, and it's good. I think it's a good thing. Obviously, tough schedule coming up. Probably his toughest job coming up, but just with what he's done and what he came into, and with the life he's breathed back into that program, I think it's huge. So number 4, we're really getting into the goods here now.
The guy that you just said, I've got Josh Heupel at number 4. What we had to deal with Butch Jones and Jeremy Pruitt and then all that, like you said, with the whole McDonald's ordeal, losing scholarships and all that stuff. And,
I will say I went through the drive-thru at that McDonald's many a times and only got chicken nuggets.
Yeah,
so
I say there wasn't no cash in those bags, but or in those Happy Meals.
Yeah.
But overall, you look at what Heupel's done the past few seasons, especially in the 2022 season, just a magical year for Tennessee and Tennessee fans, beating Alabama for the first time in 15 years. That heartbreaking loss to South Carolina could have made the playoff. Being number 1 for the first time in a long time in the college football selection show, like you said, is really just put a breath of fresh air in what Tennessee football is. So like you said, I don't think I think it's going to be a tough year. Obviously this year, new quarterback, a lot of questions to be answered this upcoming year. But then again, I feel like for what he's done after that whole thing with Pruitt losing scholarships and everything in between, I don't know if there's a right guy for the job for it other than Josh Heupel.
All right, so my number 4, Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Obviously, I looked at his coaching career before Alabama. Took that into account. Obviously, had a really good coaching career at Sioux Falls in South Dakota, but I think made a very seamless transition to be the head coach at Alabama. Obviously, nobody wants to be the guy that follows Nick Saban, but he took that over, coming off a national championship game loss, and then went 9-4 at Alabama. Which, I mean, you look, 3 of those losses came against unranked teams. Yep. He's only lost three games against ranked teams in his years at Washington and Alabama. So, I mean, he can win the big game. Let's just worry about winning those little games, and then you could be. I think the sky's the limit. Obviously, he's gotten the recruiting at Alabama back on top. So I don't think it'll be too long till we see Alabama competing for national championships again, if not this year. Number 3.
We'll go with Lane Kiffin.
I would say we got the same top 3
our
here.
Our top 3 is probably the same. Lane Kiffin, I mean, we know what he is, one of offensive mind and a QB type of coach too. I mean, you look at Matt Corral, and then you look at Jackson Dart, and then Austin Simmons coming up this upcoming year. I mean, a lot of question marks. We haven't seen Austin play, but then again, you just kind of look at, we had a lot of question marks about Jackson Dart too, and he was first round pick for the New York Giants. So, like I said, I think Kiffin, out of all these, SEC coaches, he's probably one of the best minds out there, and probably definitely top 3.
Yeah, went 5-5 his first year at Ole Miss. Obviously, won the Outback Bowl. They were kind of just getting started there, and then the last 4 years, 10-3, 8-5, 11-2, 10-3. Ole Miss had never had. I think they had only had one 10-win season ever, and now he's given them 3 in the last 4 years. Taking them to heights they had never dreamed of before. And this is a team that had Eli Manning for 4 years. This is a team that had Archie Manning for a couple of years. And he's the guy that can get it done. I think he's the second best quarterback coach in the SEC, and he's done a great job there at Ole Miss, because again, Ole Miss was always kind of second fiddle to Mississippi State, so to speak, in football, at least here around the as of late, and he completely turned that around. And obviously, his time at Tennessee and USC isn't something you want to think of. Obviously, just the way that those ended, but went into the Coach Saban's coaching clinic and went out and came out, took a couple of years at FAU, and has done a great job at Ole Miss. And some people may not like him, but I think he's a funny coach and he's a cool guy. The players love him, and while he might not have that big national championship win or appearance, I still think he's a great coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 2,
like you said, we got the same one. I'm going to go with Steve Sarkisian. His time in the Big 12, probably the best coach in the Big 12, and now has a case for being probably, an argument for being the best coach in the SEC. You look at the success you had with Quentin Ewers winning the Big 12 and then making it to the SEC, or not the SEC championship, but no, they did make the SEC championship.
Yeah, they played in it this year.
Yeah. Losing to Georgia, though, in the SEC championship in that faction. But, going to be the number 5 seed in college football playoffs, going on to win that, beating Arizona State, and then eventually losing in the semifinals to Ohio State. But you just got to look at, he's a really good recruiter, knows how to scout talent, and, just a well-rounded offense and defensive mind, just knows, the right people to plug into a system.
Yeah, and again, he's had a very good, successful career at Texas, 38-17. His first year wasn't awesome. I mean, it was in 2021 he went 5-7, which again, that's not really the standard at Texas. But since then, 8-5. Then that was a year where you were kind of working Quinn Ewers in, got injured, and then the last 2 years you've had him. He went 25-5, so you're not losing a lot there. But obviously, you got Arch Manning coming in. This guy's been sitting there learning for 2 years, ready to take the reins, and I think we could be looking at an interesting season for Texas, because obviously they're favored to win the SEC. Mm-hmm. They have probably the best offensive mind at head coach. They got one of the best quarterbacks. I think and obviously spent like $35 million on their roster. So. Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian at number 2, and number 1.
It's pretty obvious. I mean,
another member of the former Nick Saban coaching tree.
It's got to be Kirby. I mean, we've seen what Kirby's done with the success he's had already. 3 national championships now. 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
but he's coached. So he's been at Georgia since 2016, and I believe they lost. Yeah, they went 8-5 that year. Yeah. Since then. He is 97-14.
97-14.
In his time at Georgia, he has coached in 124 games and he's 105-19.
Yeah.
That is
absurd,
just stupid. I mean, I heard Brock Bowers was on an interview with Bussin' with the Boys with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton, and he's like, "Yeah, I just couldn't beat Alabama in college. I lost to Alabama twice in college." And they're looking through, and it's like, dude, those are the only 2 games you lost in college. So, I mean, ever since really that first national championship appearance in 2017. Georgia has been absurd. I mean, they lost 3 games in 2018, which, I mean, that was usually the early Kirby days that would go back and forth with Florida. You know, that was the year they would lose to Florida, obviously 2018, and then lost 3 games this past year. But since then, other than that, you know, they're losing 1 or 2.
He is on that level of dominance that, you know, the Nick Sabans and the Bear Bryants had a long time ago. I'm not comparing him to Nick Saban because we all know Nick Saban's the GOAT.
But before those last years, I mean, before this past season, I mean, the 2 years he won the national championship, they went 29-1.
Yeah.
The next year, they went 42. Brock Bowers went 42-2 in college.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for our SEC tailgate on this Wednesday edition. And again, we'll be back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, hopefully until college football season starts, and then we'll carry you through that college football season. But you know, we've been a little busy, but hey, when we come back
on track.
We are back on track. And we will be back Friday, and we're going to start doing some schools' years in review, looking at all their sports top to bottom, and that'll take up the next couple of weeks, but we'll have those rankings hopefully by the start of August. So for Michael Marks, Hayden Burks, this has been the SEC Tailgate. We'll see you Friday.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.